Okay. 19. Alright. Okay, so we will continue for last part for the economy. Okay, so for this chapter 3 for the economy is the performance measures. So the learning outcome for this performance measures is to determine a company's status and performance through financial analysis such as ratio analysis and variance analysis. So this is what you have to do for your project. So for ratio analysis, okay, what is the ratio analysis and its use? Normally, we will use data from financial report. So that is what we are asking for you to get the financial report. So from that financial report, you will get the profit loss statement and as well as balance sheet. Okay. So relationship between data in profit loss statement and balance sheet for evaluation of company's performance. So you can see the relationship between these two. So what is the use of ratio analysis is to see you can evaluate the trend. Whether if let's say you get 3 years, so within that 3 years, what is the trend? Is it up and down? Is it going downward or upward? Okay, so performance comparison between companies, and then link interdependent factors to evaluate performance. And you also can do the ratio analysis and the profit loss statement and balance sheet to plan and forecast as well as to control. So parties interested in ratio analysis is normally investors. So the investors is, for example, for Bursa Saham, so we will see the ratio analysis to know the performance of the company. Okay, and then financial institution, debenture holders and creditors. So this is interested in ratios that measures ability to pay current and long-term liabilities. Business creditors. So business creditors are interested in ratio that measure ability to pay current and long-term liabilities. So if let's say the company, we get the company ratio analysis, they are able to pay the current and long-term liabilities. So therefore, the business creditors or bank allow them to make a loan. Okay. So similar with after you graduate, then you want to make the bank loan. So they will calculate whether your salary and your liability have the potential to pay, whether you are able to pay the loan or not. So that is normally bank or housing loan. Okay, even though you have 2 houses and then you want to add up another 1 house, so normally this is the ratio that they calculate. And then management and staff of company, so interested in the overall performance of company for planning, control and incentive schemes. Okay, so types of accounting ratio analysis. So we have the analysis on the level of liquidity of the company. So this is related with the level of liquidity of the company, where we will check the current asset, current liabilities, inventory turnover, and then whether the the loan that the apa kita kata, the asset ataupun the cash of the company is high or not. because if let's say they have the fixed asset, so it's difficult to liquid. It's difficult for them to convert into cash. So that will consider for them whether the company, if let's say anything happen or economy recession, so it's difficult for them to pay the creditors. Okay, and then analysis on financial performance related to sales and assets and the returns on the capital that was utilized. Okay. So this is what you have go through for your project, financial analysis, financial performance, and then as well as analysis on business performance, where this is related to business performance from the investor's perspectives, and related to return on share value and dividend and other investment factors. So how the ratio are compared? This is based on the ratio values is meaningless if it is not compared with another value. If let's say you only have one year statement, let's say 2022. So with 2022 is meaningless, even though you get the ratio. So the ratio must be compared with the other company or the performance of the company from the different year. Okay? So for example, maybe currently most of the company almost recover from the pandemic, and some of the companies still struggling to recover from pandemic. So they do the ratio analysis to compare before the pandemic performance, during the pandemic performance, and right now is after the pandemic performance, endemic. Yeah? So they will see their performance. And then comparison may be done through periodic cycles every year for several years, or between other companies in similar industries. This is to compare their performance with their competitor. And comparison with a standard average ratio that represents at an industry. Okay? So sometimes, for example, most of the company, they have their own baseline. So if let's say they say, okay, maybe after quarter one with the similar business, with the similar number of company, the size of the company is quite similar. But if let's say other competitor can reach the performance from last year for quarter one, so then we do the comparison whether our company is perform well or not in that company. Okay, this is what happened for Nokia, that they didn't do the benchmarking with other company, and then they just think, okay, they are doing very good enough. So you can relate with the cases in the business, right? Okay, types of ratios. The interpretation for accounting ratios may be classified as liquidity ratios, activity ratios, capital ratios, profit ratios, and return in investment ratios. So this is the liquidity ratios. So liquidity ratios is the current ratio where current asset divide by current liability. So we know our asset, okay, divide by with our debt. Okay? So current liability, as well as the quick ratio, or we call it as acid test ratio. Current asset minus with end stock, because end stock is also our asset. Okay, divide by current liability minus with overdraft. Overdraft also our debt. So on the bottom one is the debt, and the upper one is our property or our asset. Okay, so this is to evaluate company's ability to pay current liability. Okay, so for the activity ratio is inventory turnover, okay, where sales cost divide by average stock, stock period, equal with number of days a year divided by inventory turnover, or debtor turnover, where total sales divided by account receivable, and asset turnover, total sales divided by total asset. Okay? So you don't need to memorize all these formula because this is open book test or open book exam. But when we calculate the ratio, you have to know where you should get the value. Okay? So the activity ratio is to evaluate ability in generating income sales, that is operation efficiency. And this is the capital ratio. Okay. So capital ratio is to evaluate financial strength and company's ability to pay long-term liability. So therefore, your capital ratio is based on the debt ratio. So debt ratio is total liability, your hutang divided by total asset. This is contrast with this one liquidity ratio. Because liquidity ratio, we are based on what we have divided by what we debt. Okay. But for capital ratio, is based on the our liability divided by asset. Okay. Right. So this is the profitability ratio. So profitability ratio means measure ability to generate profit. So whether the company is able to generate profit or not. So this is normally we see in the when we select the counter to invest. And this is share or investment ratios, where measure performance in terms of return of investment to shareholders. So this is also normally we will see when we want to select the counter to invest. Okay, so earning per share ratio and price earning ratio, okay, PER. So example, when you get the balance sheet for the company, and then this balance sheet again, it will divide into 4 quadrants. Okay, fixed asset, ownership, equity, current asset, and liability. So liability can be divided into fixed liability and current liability lah, as well as asset, whether fixed asset and current asset. Okay. So now you have the balance sheet. The total for left and right credit is 183,000. So if let's say they ask you to calculate the current ratio, so we know the current ratio is mana current ratio? Current asset divided by current liability. So you see the current asset is 28,000, okay, plus with 16,000 for account receivable, plus with 2,000. So that is under current asset here. Okay. And then divide by liability. So liability is 13,000. We have the current liability here, creditors 13,000, plus with bank overdraft 7,000. So you get the current ratio 2.3 divided by 2.3 ratio to 1. So interpretation is every 1 ringgit current liability, okay, is sustained by 2 ringgit 30 of current asset. So therefore, there is sufficient current asset to pay for all its current liabilities. Okay. But if let's say the current asset, current ratio, you get less than 1. So meaning the current asset not able to pay for the current liability. So the current asset must be higher than current liability. Okay, because it count for every one ringgit. Okay, so for acid test ratio, acid test ratio, you just refer to acid test tadi. Okay. Current asset divide by end stock, and then current asset minus end stock divide by current liability minus overdraft. So you get current asset tadi just now current apa tadi? Current asset, okay. Current asset minus end stock. So current asset, they got 16,000 minus the stock that you have, cash is 2,000. Okay, divide by 13,000, which is creditors, because this is based on the cash that they have. Okay, account receivable, that the cash money, and then you add with the cash that you have, and then divide by 13,000. So the acid test ratio 1.38 ratio to 1. So where the company has 1 ringgit 1.38 cent of liquid asset to support every 1 ringgit current liability. So therefore the liquid asset is adequate. Okay. So quick ratio, if less than 1 to 1, so shows the company has some difficulties in fulfilling its short liabilities. Okay, so similar with this, you get the balance sheet, and then they ask you to calculate the inventory turnover ratio. So inventory turnover ratio, cost of goods sold divide by average inventory. So you just refer to cost of goods sold, meaning cost of sales, 90,000, okay, divide by average inventory. So average inventory means you get 25,000 the beginning stock minus with the ending stock and divide by 2. Okay, because average inventory, this is, you have to refer back to your industrial engineering, where inventory, average inventory is always Q per 2. So Q means the beginning asset, beginning stock minus with the end stock. So divide by 2. Okay. So this one you get 3.27 to 1, meaning the inventory turnover ratio is 3.27 times per year. So therefore, when you divide into 365 days per year, so you get 111.6 days per cycle. So this is the inventory turnover ratio. So every cycle, it takes 111 days. So this shows the management efficiency in using its asset. Okay. So if you still remember the inventory cycle, remember not the that you learn in industrial engineering. Can you recall for the industrial engineering in inventory topic? Senyap je ni. Ke semua blank? Blank. Alah, hai. Inventory topic, this one. Can you remember? This is the EOQ. This is the T. And this is your cycle. How many cycles you have in a year? Can recall this one? Okay.
Ingat sikit tu.
Ingat-ingat sikit. Alright, so when you calculate the average of inventory, because this is normally always Q per 2. So this is your inventory lah. So every cycle you have your inventory. So when you calculate this one, average inventory Q per 2, so whatever come in and then minus with whatever inventory that you have at the end of the year. So you get apa? You get the average. So that's why you divide by 2. And then for the cycle is the inventory turnover ratio. Okay, so how many cycles of inventory? So this is 111.6 days per cycle. Okay, all right. So meaning in 1 year they only get 3 times per year lah, 3 cycle, about 3 cycle. Okay, all right. Accounts receivable turnover. Okay, accounts receivable turnover, you just put here. Dari account receivable, sorry, dia punya tak ada tulis ni. Account receivable turnover. Ada. Inventory turnover. Sales cost average stock kan. Okay. So account receivable turnover is the sales divided by account receivable. So meaning you have your sales 150,000, okay, divide by your accounts receivable here 16,000. So therefore you get 9.4 times per year. So when you divide 365 divided by 9.375, so you get every 38.94. So it takes the customer to pay, that is the average day for the customer to pay your sales. Okay, so that is the accounts receivable turnover. And then for asset turnover is sales divided by total asset. So sales you get 150,000 divided by total asset. So total asset here, so you have to calculate your total asset there, fixed asset and current asset. So meaning you get 0.7 to 1. So meaning the company is able to generate 70 cents for every 1 ringgit it invested in asset. So it is better than 0.6. So that is the asset turnover. And liability to equity ratio. So total liability divided by total equity. So you have to calculate the total liability. So your liability, we have fixed liability as well as current liability. So divide by total equity. So you have to calculate your total equity. Okay. 120 plus 42 plus 27. So you get 0.13. So the company's liability is 13 cents for each ringgit of equity. So a declining value shows a stable financial status. So the company rely less on external sources of company. Okay. So when you see the liability is low, so that is the best. So total liability to total asset ratio, total liability divided by total asset. So you just total up your current liability and your long-term liability. Okay, and then divide by your total asset. So you get 0.11 to 1. So meaning from 1 ringgit of total asset ratio, so 11 cents is financed by liability. So that is how you do the interpretation. Okay. And then similar with other ratios, profitability ratios, even net profit ratio before tax and net profit ratio after tax, and then rate of return on asset as well as rate of return on net equity. Because you don't need to calculate, you don't need to memorize all the formula because this is the open book. Just that which value that you need to consider in order to calculate the ratio as well as the interpretation. So this interpretation is based on the name of the ratio, and then if not, you have to refer to the formula. So for example here, net profit after tax divide by total asset. So meaning for every 1 ringgit of total asset, okay, that is the you gain for the net profit after tax. Okay. So similar with the rate of return on net equity. So shareholders will receive 14 cent return for every 1 ringgit invested in the company. So that is the tricky one is only the interpretation, okay, not the calculation of the ratio. All right. Okay, any question on ratio? Any question? Senangnya ni sebenarnya. Ada question? Senyap ni. Kan semua blank. Can follow or not? Agak-agak. Why agak-agak? This is not the calculation of structure. This is not the calculation of fluid. Okay. Thermodynamics. No, this is just logical thinking one. Okay, what you have to know is for every you have to know the purpose of each ratio, and then you know the formula of the ratio and which value that you have to take from the balance sheet and financial statement, and then as well as the interpretation. Only 4 things that you have to know. Okay. Okay, so for example, this one, price earning ratio. So price earning ratio is the market price per ordinary share divided by earnings per share. So let's say market price per share, okay, this is what you get from the internet kan, the price earning ratio ni, PER. So let's say the market price per share is RM1.60. So you divide by the earning per share, EPS. So you get 8.4221. So meaning cost to acquire a share is 8.42 times its earning. So after you earn 8.4 times, then you get the you recover your cost. So itulah dia. Okay. And then for EPS, EPS ni net profit after tax divided by number of shares. So if let's say the number of shares you need in the bursa saham that you get is 142,000 units. So net profit the company get is 27,000. Maybe here is a billion lah. Okay, in your financial statement normally in billion. So divide by 142,000 units of share. So you get 0.1921. So meaning company returns 19 cents per unit share. Okay. So this is for investment ratio. Alright. So accuracy of ratio analysis is difficult to make comparison if difference in the operations between companies, whether it's stock value, depreciation, income and asset. And if initial value or cost, historical cost is used without taking into consideration inflation and current price. So it is difficult to get if initial ratio dengan cost tu, we have to consider the inflation. Okay. And then the interaction between companies that use transfer price complicates comparison. So in a conclusion for ratio analysis can evaluate the past performance, can serve as a long-term guideline for the company, and normally we will do the benchmarking for comparison with leading company in a specific industry. So it also used between main or for critical processes. Okay, so for example, we take one company, for example, apa yang ada ni, for glove. Normally, which company that we do the benchmarking for glove? Top Glove. Yeah. So besides Top Glove, what are other companies also listed in public listed? It's also the public listed company besides Top Glove. Top Glove.
There is one company called Smart Gloves, Doctor.
Sorry?
There is one company also called Smart Gloves in KL.
What is the company?
I don't know, but I think they are also into making gloves like Top Glove.
Okay, when we see here the public listed company, we have Apex Glove, we have Kimberly Clark, Pharma Niaga also have glove. So when they do the benchmarking, okay, they will choose the top company lah, the leading company in that specific industry. So they will see, okay, the EPS, they will see their return, how much that they get the profit. So because after during the pandemic, the most hit of the leading company of glove is Top Glove. So when the main leading company has the uptrend, so the smaller company will follow the leading company. So that is normal in bursa saham. Okay. So similar with the semiconductor. So if let's say in semiconductor, who is the leading company? Do you know any leading company in semiconductor?
Nvidia.
Apa dia? Again, what is the name of the company? In Malaysia. Nvidia. Nvidia, is it listed in bursa saham? Yeah, let me check. I don't think it's listed in bursa saham. So semiconductor, for example, Franken, okay, apa lagi? Atta, VS, so that is all the apa? DNEX also, okay. So this is the semiconductor company, but they know who are the main player. Same with the oil and gas. They know who are the main player, the leading company in the specific industry. So normally they do the benchmarking. If let's say most of the leading company have uptrend, but then their company get a lower trend ataupun downward trend. So that is something wrong with the company. So therefore, they do the ratio analysis to see their performance. Okay. Alright. So this is other example. So I think you can go through lah. So for example, current ratio, if let's say you get current ratio is 1.64, meaning the company has 1 ringgit 64 current asset to support every 1 ringgit current liability. So this is already we discussed just now. And for quick ratio is if less than 1 ringgit, meaning the company has 0.81 current liquid asset, not including inventories, to cover for every 1 ringgit current liability. So therefore not enough to cover all liabilities, so need more effort to pay current liabilities. So that is how you put your interpretation. Okay, so similar with this. Okay, for inventory turnover, inventories turnover 13.17 times in 1 year. So the number of days inventories are kept in 27 days. And account receivables, okay, that is the formula. Tadi in front of your the earlier slide that they didn't put the account receivable turnover. So after you get 2.6 days, okay, so accounts receivable turnover is high and average collection rate is 2.6 days. So this may be because most sales transactions are done in cash. Therefore, they get lower apa, the average collection rate is a bit high lah. Okay, 2.6 days. And asset turnover, company was able to generate 4 ringgit 55 cents sales for every 1 ringgit invested in total asset. So that is for activity ratio, and this is the capital ratio, so on and so forth. I think it's very simple lah. Okay, because you know the formula and then you get the number, but that is how you do your interpretation. Okay, but for this trend comparison, okay, for example, you have 3 years, so 2003, 2002 and 2001. So you calculate for each of the ratio. So for example, current ratio, and you compare for these 3 years as well as the quick ratio. So you can see the trend. Okay, for example, for current ratio, over 3 years, the company has maintained its performance at the same level, where it's almost 1.6, okay, 1.64, 1.69 and 1.66. So it is capable to paying of paying its short-term liability because it's higher than 1 ringgit. For quick ratio, you can see it not much different, okay, 0.81, 0.76 and 0.81. So no obvious changes. So the company almost can pay all its short-term liabilities with its current assets. So minus inventories. Okay. So this is what you should do for your project. You calculate the ratio and then you compare for 3 years performance, and then you make your comparison and do your report. Okay. Yeah. Hot water. And this is for inventory turnover, account receivable and total turnover. Okay. So you can see for inventory turnover, 13.17, 13.08 and 13.83. That is almost stable. Okay, there is not much change. So the high ratio is because this is a retail company. So you have to refer to your to your company lah. So in your project, you get 2022 kan? 2022, 2021 and 2020, right? Or you take before that? Which year that you are collected your financial statement for the company? You take 2019 or 2020? Ke belum cari lagi? Okay, 2019, 2022 and 2021. So meaning 2019 is just before the pandemic. Okay. And 2020 and 2021 is during the pandemic. So when you do the ratio analysis, okay, if let's say 2019 is a little bit far from the 2020 and 2021, so you have to find the reason why the company performance apa macam yang you dapat lah. Okay, unless for the food maybe I'm not really sure, but for the food company, more or less maybe the company's ratio is stable because food, everyone needs food even though before and after pandemic. Okay. For healthcare, that is maybe 2019 is a little bit low, and 2020 and 2021 a little bit higher. So you have to see, some factors that may affect their performance during these 3 years. Unless you get 2020 to 2021 and 2022. So 2022 is maybe during the endemic. So everyone back to normal. Or maybe 2021 too is a little bit hard because some of the company already bungkus lah 2021 because they cannot sustain during the pandemic. So therefore, some of the company is also a little bit struggle during 2021. So you have to see their ratio as well as the inventory turnover, account receivable. Okay, account receivable maybe in terms of cash, maybe less transaction because I think our trend during the pandemic we use a lot of credit card or a debit card because especially in 2020 lah. So everyone stay at home and then we buy online. So starting from 2020, we can see the trend for the accounts receivable is a little bit low. Okay. So any question on that? Any question for ratio analysis? Okey tak ni? Macam slow aja malam ni. Hello, I'm asking.
Okay, doktor.
Macam tak okey je. You pay attention ke tak ni? Ke saya cakap seorang-seorang?
Okay, doktor, okay.
Tak bila saya tanya macam tak ada respon. Ke you all kat luar? Sambil-sambil je baca, sambil-sambil je dengar. Everything is good, yelah tu Afif. Okay, so variance analysis. So nanti, okay, for your information I just mark for test 1. Not test 1 lah. Not this course, okay. I have another course for industrial engineering. Okay, based on the trends, okay. Because now you are third year kan. So I think the students taking the industrial engineering also in third year. So most of the students who are in third year, because this is the first time you get the experience having the face-to-face lecture. Okay, so based on our observation, okay, the students in third year have less performance compared to other batch. Okay, because when we mark your test 1, okay, for third year courses, majority of the students are fail. Okay, I don't know, maybe you have the culture shock whether during the pandemic 2 years then you just learn online and then there is no interaction with the lecturer, and then or maybe during the exam you because 2 years at home then it should be memorized or understand, but you just copy and paste from your textbook or from the slides. I'm not really sure. Or maybe you ask the check online, okay? You put the question online and then there are somebody from outside can give the answer scheme. I'm not really sure. But most of the what we can conclude for the third year who are affected based on the pandemic cohort, okay, the performance of the students a little bit lower compared to the previous students in the third year. Yeah, because a little bit surprised. So that's why I'm keep asking whether you understand or not. Yeah? Because it seems in class like everyone understand, but when we mark the test, the students not perform. So very very sad lah. Okay, so tak boleh diam-diam je tu. When the lecturer asks, and then you have to participate because you are third year. We want to produce the holistic students who are able to speak, who are able to present, who are be more confident, who are understand the knowledge well, and then who can argue the with the fact. If not, it's difficult for you to get the job as an engineer. And once you graduate and be the junior engineer, no one will teach you, no one will help you. That's why you have to, upskill starting from third year. Okay? Learn a lot and mix and communicate a lot. Right? Okay, variance analysis. We continue for variance analysis. So learning outcome for variance analysis is to identify variances that occur using variance analysis, identify the reasons for negative and positive variances, and calculate variance for analysis. So why the variance analysis is important? Because it's to analyze an implementation of the purchasing system and cost control. Okay. Because if too many variance, and that is not good. Okay. So variance occur because there is a difference between the specified standard or budget with the actual performance. Okay. So the positive variance is the best because actual cost is less than standard or budgeted cost. But for the negative variance occur when the actual cost is higher than standard cost. That is not good. So provide the variance analysis will provide the information to management so that appropriate actions can be taken. So this is why the variance analysis is very important, okay, especially for the we back to the government budget, because every year they know the standard budget, okay. So if let's say they got the positive variance, then it should be okay lah, because it's still within the budgeted cost. But if let's say they got the negative variance, so meaning, for example, right now is rainy day kan, so a lot of areas been affected untuk banjir, so they have to provide the emergency fund to the affected family. Okay, so therefore if let's say they don't do the planning properly, so the actual budget will be higher because it's not because of the planning, but because of the unexpected happen. Okay? The emergency, therefore the emergency fund should be cover enough lah for the unexpected happen due to weather. Okay. So variance is calculated by comparing standard or budgeted cost with actual cost, and analysis is then done and appropriate action taken. So therefore, the only variances of factory costs will be studied here, that is the material variance and labor variance. So we only have two types of variance. Material variance, which consists of price variance and usage variance, and labor variance consists of wage variance and efficiency variance. So the variance analysis for overhead is not addressed because it is unaffected by changes in the output level within the relevant range, but the general concept of variance is still applicable. So consists of two variants for material variance, which is material price variance and material usage variance. So this occurs due to variances in material price or usage or both. So for material price variance, it occurs when the actual material cost deviate from the standard material cost that was specified before the production process began. Okay, so meaning the material price variance is standard price minus with actual price multiply with the actual material quantity. So therefore, sometimes during the production line, if let's say because the material price will be up and down. Okay, so when the price is up and down, so we have to calculate normally the standard price how much. Okay, similar with the face mask. Face mask before the pandemic, how much it cost for one face mask? $0.10 ke? Is it 10 cents? If you still remember, okay, during the PKP, MCO, there were one time, one piece of face mask is up to RM1.50. Then after that happened, and then the government said, okay, that is the baseline for they give the baseline for the face mask. Okay. So if I'm not mistaken, they cut berapa kalau siapa ingat? I think 20 cent ke 50 cent per mask. They give the ceiling price lah. I think 50 cent got. So afterwards, then the price of the mask being stable lah. So currently, you also can get one box for face mask. I think about berapa lebih kurang? Saya dah lama tak beli mask. Kalau dulu during the pandemic, during the MCO, I bought one box RM50. So RM50 is a bit expensive lah. Because it's only have 50 pieces. So one piece of the face mask is RM1. But the cost of for face mask tu way cheaper. So that is due to not because of the material, but the producer or the company increase the price. But in here is based on the material price variance. Okay, so during that pandemic, the government checked the standard price versus with the price that they sell to the customer. So that's why they put the baseline for the face mask. Okay. Alright, so why price variance is negative? So this is due to increase in material price. So there is inflation, lack of material in the market. Okay, sometimes if let's say the material is very low in the market, so therefore the price will be higher. Okay, because high demand but low supply kan. So material was obtained from an expensive sources and no planning during the purchase. So for example, material was bought while price was high. Okay. And why price variance is positive? Because it's a well-planned material purchase and usage. So therefore, when you work in the process or production company, so especially for the purchasing department, when they do the when they want to purchase the material, so they have the standard price that normally they bought, okay, and then if let's say the actual price become increase, so they have to check whether that actual price is actually according to increase the material price or inflation, or is it expensive sources, okay. Why they have to check with why the price is very high, okay. All right. And this is the material usage variance. So it occurs because of the difference between actual and planned material usage. It occurs after the production process is run. So material usage variance is the standard quantity minus with actual quantity multiply with the standard material price. So why material usage is negative? Because unskilled workers, too many rejects and wastage, and lack of monitoring of material usage, and material quality is not as specified. So why material usage is positive? Because efficiency in using material may be related to workers' experience in using material. So because this is the usage variance. Yeah. So example, M company use standard cost system for a product that it makes. So standard material cost is 2 ringgit per unit. Standard material quantity to produce 1 unit product is 5 material units. So in May, M company produced 1,200 units of the product and the material used is 6,600 units at the price of 15,180. So calculate the price variance of material, usage variance of material, and total variance of material. So you have the price 2 ringgit and actual price, you just divide, okay, total price that they buy 15,180 divide by 6,600 units, so you get actual price is 2 ringgit 30. So the quantity is 1,200 products multiply with 5 units products materials, so you get 6,000 units material, and for the actual is 6,600. So therefore the material variance, material price variance, so 2 ringgit the standard price minus with 2 ringgit 30, and then multiply with the actual material quantity, so you get 1,980. That is negative because 2 ringgit minus 2.3. Okay, and the material usage variance, standard units is 6,000, but the actual unit is 6,600. Multiply with the material standard price that are given 2 ringgit, so you get 1,200 is also negative. So therefore, the total material variance is material price variance plus material usage variance. Altogether is 3,180. It's negative. Okay. So this one is also same. Okay, just now is material and this one is the labor variance. So labor variance, we are referring to the wage variance and labor rate variance. So the cost by labor wage or labor efficiency variance or both. So wage variance is the standard wage rate minus with the actual wage rate multiply with actual quantity. And why labor rate variance is negative? Because unexpected increase in wage rate that may be caused by overtime and skilled worker, And labor efficiency variance is standard labor hour minus with actual labor hour multiply with the standard wage. So why labor efficiency variance is negative? Because unskilled workers, idle workers, lack of motivation or health. If you can relate during the pandemic as well, okay, for for the labor variance, some of the company have they have to reduce the number of hours of their workers because they want to sustain, so they want to lower the demand is become low, okay, especially for the semiconductor. The the demand is low, but they want to sustain of the company, and they still have to provide have to run the production. So therefore the standard labor hour is higher than actual labor hour, because some of the company they only allow their worker work 4 days per week compared to no, sometimes they have to work 3 days per week. Okay, so that is the because of idle worker, not because of health. Okay, so this is the example. G company use a standard cost system, a product that is produced. So standard wage rate is RM3.50 per direct labor hour, and standard time is 2 hours for each unit made. So in June, G company produced 7,500 units of the product using 18,750 hours of direct labor. So total wage paid for the used labor is 67,500. Then you have to calculate the wage rate variance, labor efficiency variance, and total labor variance. So standard labor hour is RM3.50 per labor hour. So the actual you have total that you pay is 67,500 divide by 67. Okay. Divide by 18,750 labor hour, so you get 360 labor hour. So meaning your company pay 10 cent higher than standard. Okay. So quantity 7,500 units multiply with 2 hours per unit, so you get 15,000 labor hour. Compared to the 18,750 labor hours in actual. So wage rate variance, standard is minus 0.1 multiply with 18,750 hour. So you get 1,875 negative. Okay. And efficiency variance is also negative. Okay. Yang atas tu forgot to put the negative there. So therefore, the total labor variance is 15,000 total negative. Right. And this is also the same lah. So you can see when, because the cases that they provide here is very straightforward. But when the actual ataupun in the case study, you have to see we call it the microeconomy happen to the company or to the environment. Okay, so that you can relate, okay, what is happening. So for example, maybe pandemic, or maybe the material that they provide is for example the metal, and why metal suddenly the metal price is become increased. So because of lack of supplier. Okay, so therefore the material the metal price become increased. So you have to see the element there. Yeah. Right. So any question? Because the rest I think is just standard. You know the standard rate per hour and actual rate So then afterwards, whether it's positive or negative, then y is negative, then because of actual wage rate is higher, this may be due to expensive skilled workers or overtime or both. So your role is you have to find this thing. Okay, what is the reason the variance is become negative, or maybe what is the reason the variance is become positive? Okay, so any question? I think too easy lah for these performance measures. Semua tak ada soalan? All understand? Is it too easy or too difficult? Or you are not sure?
Far so good, Doctor. Doctor, in final, we will be given a case study, right, for this question, this kind of question.
Yes, yes.
So we need to identify the value and then just use the formula given lah.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Similar with your project, okay? When you have the 3 years performance, and then you calculate all the ratio, and then afterwards you calculate the variance. Then when you calculate the variance, so you have to see what happened to the company.
Oh, then we need to interpret lah
Yes.
the outcome. Alright.
Yeah, correct. Because it's not about the calculation, because the calculation is easy. You can get the value. Because the formula is easy to find, and then the value also is easy to find. But we as an engineer, we have to think, use our brain to think and find the reason. Once we find the reason, then you have to find the root cause to solve the problem. So that is the job as an engineer. Also, when you work outside, it's also the same. It's not about the value, because the value sometimes is automated. You can get from the software, you can get from the systems, because they already have their own system. Once you get the value, but how you interpret it. So that is our job. Similar with the doctor. They know, okay, your body have high temperature, but then the doctor have to find, okay, why the temperature is become higher. Because it give the signal your body is not good. So you have to do the doctor have to do the testing. So they get they ask you to do the blood test, they ask you to do the apa lagi kalau blood test, urine test or whatever. Okay, then afterwards they will give which antibiotic is suitable to overcome your health problem. So same with the engineer. Right. So any question? So yang ni dah habis dah ni tau. So we actually finish our class, but I feel not really good lah, because normally for final class normally I and my students will have fun time for final class, but we don't see each other. So sekejap saya check. We double check whether we already finish everything or not. Lecture plan. Oh, it's until ratio analysis. Okay. But it's also ratio analysis plus with the variance. This one also variance. Okay, your final group project submission should be 18 January. So I give you, because since we just finished the ratio analysis and variance, the performance, so that your friends asking for the extension, berapa bulan tadi? 2